we noticed there were some issues in this survey, so we're going to come in and correct those really fast before we do anything else. In order to do that, I come over here and hit the Edit Survey button. Let's tackle some cleanup here. So if I come in and select this one, I can come in and just hit delete. I'm going to come on the side and say, I think I would like this, how would you rate your overall experience question, to be the one at the top. And so I'm just going to click it and drag it to the top up here. Editing it like this tends to work better when you're at the very beginning of a survey. If you have any questions about editing surveys, please feel free to reach out to our support team. We can handle the editing for you. From your survey list page, you're able to do a number of things, including going into a survey and seeing the data. You're also able to create a survey from this point. Over in the corner, you can have this plus button. Now, if you hover over it, it'll say Create New Survey. If I click on it, it's going to give me this new survey dialog. Inside of here, it's going to give you a few options. One, I can create a new survey from scratch. I get full control of editing anything we want inside of the survey. Right? This is really for kind of the power user. I want to come in and I want to control and fine-tune every single question. I can also create from a template. Right? There's a bunch of proven templates that you can then take from and then edit from there. I can duplicate an existing survey that you may already have in your list. Or I can use AI to generate a survey. Each one of these can be a powerful way to be able to get surveys created and used inside of the system. We're going to start from a template. So if I come in and select from template and hit continue, I'm then given a list of choices that I can select. I come in here and I'm going to say, I'm going to pick the client experience template. Right? And it says this survey is designed to help organizations serving vulnerable people gather fast, anonymous feedback on service quality, safety, and client needs, while also capturing key demographic insights to better understand who they're serving. Sounds great to me. Let's get it created. I then hit continue. I'm going to give it a survey name. I'm going to say, this is my new test survey. I'm also going to put it inside of my organization. I'm going to put this inside my Pulse for Good organization. If you are only a member of one organization, it'll by default select the organization for you. I can see the questions that it's going to add below. How was your visit? How safe do you feel? How clean was it? How nice were the staff? What did you use? What did you wish was here? How long have you been homeless? What's your ethnicity? How old are you? What's your gender? What's your marital status? And a thank you question. Sounds pretty good to me. I'm going to hit Create Survey. That's then going to go through and create the survey for me to be able to edit. Right? I see this first. How was your visit? It looks great. Now, first I want to point out a few things here. This is what we call the survey builder. And the survey builder has three main sections. Really, panels are what we call them. First is this main panel. This main panel is where you'll see a facsimile of your survey. It's not exactly what your survey looks like, but it is a very close representation. And at any point, you can come in and edit any piece of this. So if I don't want it to say, how was your visit? I can come in and say, how was your stay? Instead, right? As simple as clicking and editing. If I want to add a description, I can always say, how was last night's stay at this facility? Right? Or maybe I decide, I don't like that at all. I'm just going to get rid of it. That main panel tends to be where most of the editing happens. On the left side is the question organization panel. This is where you can add questions or move questions up or down by dragging and dropping them. You can also move them by clicking on these three dots and inserting questions before or after, duplicating a question, or moving the question up or down, or deleting them. So if I decided I want this, how clean was it, to be the second question, I could always grab it and drag it above the how safe did you feel question from here. Or I can click these three dots, move them up and down, or hit delete from this point. You can also see the types of questions by looking at here. I have a few star ranking questions, looks like a checkbox questions, a text question, a multiple choice question, another checkbox, a few more multiple choice, and then finally an action question. An action question is something that triggers something like restarting the survey. On the right side, we have the editing panel. Right? And this is not the editing, this is really the editing metadata panel is the best way to describe it. Inside of here, for instance, if I click on this question, I can come in and change the question type. I can pick a rating, a scale, text, multiple choice, checkbox, info or messages, actions, grievances, or AI interviews. I can pick the core type. This is helpful in the future when you're running various reports to be able to say, this is the type of question this is, so please include it in the reports. So on this one, I could say, hey, this is really overall satisfaction. I can even change the style here. If I don't like stars, maybe I want it to be hearts or perhaps squares. A bunch of different ways to be able to display it that may fit your population better. I can come in and interchange the labels. Instead of not good on the far side, I could say really bad with an extra L because it was really bad. Or if I want to, I can come in and say, you know what, I want labels under everything. So I'm going to say very bad, really not good, meh, good, and great. I can also come in and do other things. I can disable this question, or I can turn on instant stats. Instant stats are where when someone answers the question, it will show them how they compare to other people that have answered that same question in your survey. Or I can just delete this question. From here, I can also edit the text. Now, we showed how you could edit the text in the main panel, but on the side, it gives me a little more granularity, in particular with the translations. As I edit the question text here, or the description here, I can then come down and edit the translations that might be popping up. So if our translation is just a little off, I'm able to come in here and say, maybe this is not exactly how we want to say this in Spanish. Let's make that adjustment here. I can also add logic. Logic is helpful when you want to have a more complex survey. What we can have is two different types of logic. I can have conditional branching or conditional questions, where questions appear based off of my answers to previous questions, or I can have routing actions, where I'm actually taken to a different survey based off of how I answer my questions. So, for instance, if I come in here and I say, when someone says 3 stars or below, let's then ask them, what do you wish was here? What this means is this what do you wish was here question would only appear if they answer 3 stars or below. If they answer above that, that what do you wish was here question would not appear. I can have as many follow-up conditions as I want. And so maybe I want certain questions to appear based off of certain answers and other questions to appear off of the other answers. You're more than welcome to add as much and as complex logic as you want. That said, the more complex it is, sometimes the harder it is to understand the data and why you only have 3 answers for one question, but 10 for another, forgetting often that it may be a condition that is triggering those questions to pop up. So use it wisely. It's a powerful tool, but sometimes can get a little complex here. Then lastly, we have alerts. Alerts are when I want to be able to be notified immediately if there's a problem inside of my system. Now, this is a self-setup alert, so it's not going to give me a notification if, for instance, my kiosk is offline. Those are things that will happen regardless. This is an alert that I trigger based off of answers to the questions. Also in this side panel, if I click the survey settings button, I get the settings for the entire survey. On here, I can edit details for the survey name, a description, the status of if it's published. Surveys can be draft, published, hidden, or retired. Draft surveys are surveys that you don't want to share with the entire world, but you want to be able to edit them and test them. Published surveys are good to go. You can send them wherever you want. They're going to capture responses. Hidden surveys are ones that will no longer appear on dashboards, but they could still capture responses if you wanted them to. Retired surveys are surveys that still appear on dashboards. You can still see the data, filter it, go through it, but will no longer capture responses. Users will be giving a message that tells them that this survey is no longer collecting responses. Also, the assigned organization, any internal notes that we may have, the disclaimer text. Notice down here at the bottom, it shows you the disclaimer text. We value your privacy, your identity will remain anonymous. I can classify something as a template. If I want to make a survey, make it into a template, and then when I create from template, it's one of the options that I can create from. I can make it a routing-only survey. A routing-only survey is a survey that only has routing actions, meaning I'm using this survey to send you to other surveys only, and I don't want to collect any information for the dashboard. I can enable PII fuzzing, meaning I'm not going to share names, addresses, phone numbers, things like that in the dashboard. And I can turn alerts on and off. I can also change my theme here. If I want the survey to appear different than this pretty pink, I mean, Pulse pink is amazing, but maybe I want it to be green. As I come in and change it, it'll change the theme for all of these different things. From here, I can also update and add a logo. A logo will appear in the corner. Just either drag and drop yours or browse it in your files system and put it here and it will appear in the corner. Or I can upload a background image that will appear behind my survey. I like the Pulse pink, so we're going to head back in that direction. We're going to actually do some purple, maybe. Yeah, there we go. I can choose what languages I want on or off. You can see all of the languages that are currently on: Spanish, Russian, Persian, French, Azerbaijani. I didn't know that was a language. Armenian, Arabic. Also another language I don't know. Albion and Afrikaans. So a bunch of wonderful languages. There are lots of languages to choose from. As soon as I toggle it, it's going to automatically translate your questions into that language and then allow you to edit them and those translations if you want. I can also turn on various widgets. Widgets are things you're going to see appear in your dashboard. If you don't want them in your dashboard, for instance, this NPS score, I can always turn it off and the NPS scores will not appear inside of your dashboard. And then links. This is where you can see, at least in one place, links that you can send out for this survey. It'll show you the live link where you're going to actually store responses, test links where you're not going to get responses, but people can take the survey and see how it works, and the short code, how you register a kiosk here. You can also download the QR code if you'd like from this point. There's other places to do this, but this is a convenient place while you're building the survey. All right, I think our survey is looking pretty good. Although I do want to come in and change, I personally like the stars. So we're going to go back to the stars for this thing here. I think it all looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and save. While our survey is saving, let's talk about some best practices building surveys. Survey creation is some part an art and some part of science, right? You want to make sure your surveys are both reliable and valid. Make sure that they produce effectively the same responses each time when someone's had the same experience, and you want to make sure that they're asking what you think they're actually asking. There's a few best practices to follow as you go through this. First, try and keep your survey short. There is such a thing as survey fatigue. Sometimes you get that from being asked to do multiple surveys. Sometimes you get that from being asked lots of questions. We've probably all experienced that. As a general rule of thumb, try and keep your surveys between 10 and 15 questions at most. Our data shows that there tends to be significant drop-off after 10 questions and very significant after 15. You want to put the most important questions, the ones you care about, first, as people tend to drop off over time. Either their case manager is ready for them or they're just busy and they decide they want to walk away. So put the most important questions first. We also recommend that you ask some demographic questions that you can then filter on later. Demographic questions don't have to be demographics that you would traditionally think about being demographics. They don't have to be age, race, or ethnicity. They could be things like, what program are you in? How long have you been here? What case manager did you see? Any way that you may want to group people and see if they have different experiences, that's a demographic question. And you're going to want to be able to build in those demographics so you can filter inside of the dashboard and figure out what groups are having good experiences and what ones are having a little worse off experiences, and how can we adjust and make things better. You're going to want to keep your surveys and the questions themselves to about a 3rd grade reading level. And you also want to avoid what are called double-barreled questions, or questions where there's an and. If you have an and in your question, it's a really good sign that you're actually asking 2 different things, and you should either split it into 2 questions or just remove one of the things and make sure you're asking a single question. For example, if I say, how nice and happy are the staff, and people say they're not, the question is, were they not happy or were they not nice? Where if I divide those into 2 questions, how nice were the staff and how happy were the staff, I may see the staff are very nice but very unhappy. Or conversely, I may see that they are not nice but they're very happy. Right? Being able to break those questions up allows me to have more actionable information and feedback that I can do something with. Lastly, treat surveys as living documents. Surveys don't have to be the same all the time. And in fact, what we recommend is a term we call bubbling up and down. We recommend running a survey that gives you a lot of breadth, a lot of different areas and focus. And then when you get feedback about these that you need to get more information on, changing your survey or running a new survey for a period of time where you get more depth. For instance, maybe I run a survey and I say, hey, what could we fix? What could we improve? And I hear a lot about food. Well, my next survey that I may run may be more focused on the food and the different options and things that people may care about there. Running just a food survey for forever really eventually won't pay off in a lot of good dividends. And so what I'm going to want to do is run that survey for a period of time, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months, get enough data to make actions, and then when I act upon it, go back to that broader survey where I'm able to figure out if there's a different part of my organization that I need to fix things. These are some of the best practices that we've seen organizations use that really help them as they go through the system.